all these fans on the chair, yeah. Sorry. Drink, walk. Heard this ain't no G-Shock. Damn, looking like a peacock.
Hey, y'all. Philly service announcement. TakeOver Tuesday. Love, support, and grace. Let's go.
Yo,
the love,
we
the
are
support, and the grace is so real here. We going to shine every day. Okay?
I'm not going to go into nothing because you know I'm love ball, so I ain't even
Love,
going
support,
to
and
get. I ain't
grace.
even going to get off of that part of who I am right now. I'm gonna just let y'all know we was out.
Y'all know what it is. Hashtag chick with the juices, juicy baby. If you know you.
Worcester and Maderi gave out 5 pallets
much
of
food.
That
So
community
much food.
came out there, and I was able to show them love. They showed me a lot of love. I had the babies out there with me in the rain. My girl,
Yes.
Erica Stewart, always shows up for me. Got there 8 o'clock in the morning, like, yo, what are you doing? Get up. I don't care if you was up at 5 and all that, because that's what we do out here. This is what we doing out here. So we going to have a PSA show like we always do. I don't got to say it's a dope show. I don't got to say special guest, because y'all already know what it is. So
Y'all
now,
know. Y'all
I'm going
know.
to just say it's a PSU show. Philly service announcement. We gonna deliver like we always deliver. Come get what you need.
Yes.
So listen.
This is your show.
I'm the assist. This my right hand sister
Nick.
Nick. If she already didn't tell y'all.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Listen. We have a very, very, very important person in the building. Very important. I think I gotta go ahead and put his headphones on for him and everything, so he can get right at y'all. Let y'all know who he is, because I don't explain people. I let them tell you who they are. So
Let them say
he gonna put them on, let y'all know who he is, where he come from, what he done created, and we gonna go from there.
Yes, absolutely.
It's on you. He my boss too. Like, that's another thing. You know what I'm saying? I work with his brother. Let me pull the mic up for you. So first, let them know who you are.
Okay, I'm Archie Leacock, and I am the Executive Director of Institute for the Development of African American Youth.
So if y'all heard me like the last month or so talking about my job, talking about, you know, the experiences that I've had at this job, it's a dream job for me. You're not supposed to say that in front of people who can help pay your bills, because then they might be like, well, if you love it so much, do it for free. And nah, that can't happen. But I do love it. It's a dream job. Me being the places that I've been in my life, y'all already know my story, and then to just get an opportunity to be in front of my little brothers and give them some of the stuff that I didn't have, that put me in some situations that I shouldn't have been in hopes that I could change some lives with some thought process changing. This brother, Ade, has created that for me, and that's why. And then the other thing is, I had never heard of him until I started working there. And then once I told people that I was working there, they was like, oh, no, I know him, you know, the blind guy. Yeah, I know him. I've been down to ID. That's a great organization. It's a great program. So can you give us, like, some of the beginnings? Like, how long ID been in existence? How did you come to create ID? Like, give us a little bit of that.
Well, it's quite a story. And first of all, thanks for inviting me to be here.
Nah, thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here.
It's a real honor. And often I feel it's a boring story because I live it every day, 24 hours. Believe me, I'm on this every day. I feel that passionately about it. But I was at Temple at the time, teaching, finishing up my PhD in political science at Temple in the end of 1989, 1990. And I started recognizing in my classes that Temple, of course, as we all know, is in the middle of North Philadelphia.
Yes.
But if you walk down the streets of Temple, you'll see a lot of course, African Americans and minorities walking on the streets. But who goes into the buildings? It's not African Americans, it's only the European American kids. So in my class, I would teach 3 classes a week, and I was concerned that only one of the students generally was African American. I'm like, oh, how could you be in North Philly, the heart of the ghetto,
Wow.
and only have one student?
Exactly.
But the people who theoretically hate you are the ones filling up all the seats and getting all the benefits. And here I am being black. I'm originally 100 years ago from Trinidad in the Caribbean, but I'm black. You can tell if you see me. There's no hiding that. I'm proud of it. And I was just really concerned that I was teaching these white kids how to be, knowledgeable, how to be teachers, how to be politicians, how to be policymakers. But where the people that I am most concerned about, they're not in front of me. So I started on the Saturdays teaching, just going out on the street and talking to the kids and Temple Bell Tower, basically saying, do you want to go to college? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And these kids were amazing. They would say, yeah, we want to do it. I said, well, meet me on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at Ritter Hall, right down the next corner, 13th and CCB Moore, and I'll teach you. And I was blind, and I'm like, oh no, these kids ain't gonna come, no, go, blind guy. And my friend and I, he was also working on a doctorate degree in education, and he joined me, and we both were quite surprised that young people, there were 13, 14 of them that would show up on a Saturday willing to learn, and we were like just flabbergasted, because we didn't think anyone wanted to be bothered with these PhD students trying to get the degree, being too heavy-handed with knowledge. But we were quite surprised that they were interested, and they came every week. Well, the end of the story is that this was in 1991, the spring of 1991, and we, of course, had the summer off, and I told the students, well, look, we college students, we are off. We'll see you back in September. And come August, I called those same 14. I said, only bring one person back. I got a job. I'm writing a dissertation. I'm teaching classes. I take classes myself. I can be, I don't want 40 young people, just one. So we came in on that Saturday, and we were flabbergasted. There were 200 young people in the hallways.
Wow.
I immediately had diarrhea. I had to go to the bathroom. And if this was a more casual, I would say, and shitted myself. I was shocked that they were all African Americans, which tells me something.
Yes.
That here are young people, they don't have to come on a Saturday, and here they are for a blind guy teaching who is trying to talk to them. They got to listen. And there were just so many indicators that were in the opposite direction from what we learned. And from there, I knew we were on to something. Spend the
Absolutely.
time building, getting the nonprofit, and very slowly but surely started building an agency. And 30 years later, here I am with our young people and still battling the day every day with our young people. But we are hoping, we are succeeding and making a difference.
Wow, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah,
What
no
were you
doubt.
teaching?
Political science.
Oh my goodness, I love political science.
So
Yes.
it is the resource that you would consider yourself providing. You kind of talked about it in how Our Day was created and everything, but now that you've been doing it for 3 decades and it has a format that you go by, and I'm sure it evolves and it changes over time, but it's that core thing. What is the core thing that you're trying to provide?
The core thing, I think, is, I'm sure it varies with other folks, young people, their parents and so on, because we all come with a subjective need. And I really think it is about finding who you are, exploring who you are, and taking advantage of the opportunities. I know when I went blind, I was 14, and I just thought it was the end of the world. Come on now, there couldn't be a God who would make a 14-year-old
Right,
blind. Come on.
right.
Don't tell me God knows what he's doing. In this case, he certainly didn't, because I felt very much cheated out of running up and down the street and just being a wild 14-year-old, and all of a sudden, I'm called to sit down in a corner and do nothing. It was the most devastating. But it took my mother, who is now dead, 10 years, it took her many, many days and just spending every day with me, teaching me how to sweep, teaching me how to point my penis to pee again. I had forgotten everything. Literally, I had to relearn everything. And it took 2 years. Went to the School for the Blind in Trinidad and started seeing other people, blind folks, smiling and thinking it ain't the end of the world. I said, okay, it ain't the end of the world. And then I came to the United States when I was, 17, 3 years later. My mother thought, we can do it in America. If you can't get your eyesight back, you won't get it back in heaven. Well, I came and the doctor said, forget it. You ain't going to get your eyesight back anyway. Just chill.
Yeah, it's crazy when you say like all of these when I'm standing in front of these young men and young women that come to our day, it's like you would think going into it like, yo, this is gonna be a hard fight. But it's like, yo, you get in there and you start talking, and when I feel like what you're saying as far as identity, because it's the development of African American youth, that means identity. I that's a big thing for me, and that's another reason why I say, yo, this is a dream job for me, because I get to teach identity. The thing that changed me when I was incarcerated was me learning who I was as a black man.
Exactly.
Me learning who I was as an African. Knowing that it goes beyond captivity. Like, we were doing amazing things for millennial. Like, we have like that. Learning that potential gave me unlimited power. Like, I can really control my own destiny because I know who I am. Right. And when I get to talk to these young folks and start putting that out there to them, they want it. They want it. So I feel what you said, like, yo, you came and it was 200 people, 200 young folks came. Like, it's nothing wrong with our babies.
That was mind blowing.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's nothing wrong. Like, that allows me to know, like, yo, it's nothing wrong with our babies. We just need to give them more. We need to give them more.
Yes, we do.
So I understand that you're saying the resource is identity, but did you ever wanted to grow? Because 30 years is a long time, so I know you've seen a lot of growth in it, and you've seen a lot of ups and downs, but it's still standing. It's still an institution. Is it anything that you wanted to do with our day that you haven't gotten to do yet, or you were doing it for a while and it went away and you're trying to bring it back? Like, is it anything that you've been thinking, like, if I could just add this piece, or I want to add this piece that you haven't been able to do, or you want to bring it back?
I have to be honest with you. I am open-minded. So when someone comes to me and says they have an idea, I feel there's some young people we might not be reaching. There's some people who we might only reach and just cooperating with us. But I always want to give them an opportunity for someone else who feels passionately to come and talk to our young people.
Right.
So it really is, you don't know what stroke is going to make a difference. Right. And I'm therefore willing to and then of course pay attention to it and see what's going on, whether or not I need to pull them back, or I need to say, thank you, your presentation is over, keep it moving, or whatever it is. But I really think at the end of the day, if we can allow our young people to find themselves and understand, I'm not about a juvenile, I'm not about someone to be arrested, I am more than that, and find that pathway to more than that. That's why we find some of our great heroes, Martin Luther King needing to be in jail, Malcolm X, and finally writing the letter of their lives, because they have now had time to sit and think and come to grips with who they are. Right. So as though it's a negative place, but you can have certainly very positive outcomes. And I want our young people to do that. And I think this is doing that in the matrix of America. That's why we feel in the t-shirt I have on the back says, Black Lives Matter. How could you possibly, what is anything good about you thinking you want to hold people back, hold back their humanity, hold them held in a cage for the rest of their lives just because you think they are not worth it and you want certain things and you want to hold them back just to make sure you get those things. I think that is one of the struggles that I face every day. And America, as great as it is, and it is a great city, I could not do the things in the Caribbean as I'm doing in America, so I have to be very grateful. But we can go even beyond that.
Right.
And I want our young people to know that they can be scientists, they can be dancers, they can be rappers. I have a master's degree in music and decided to do something else. But you know, you can do whatever you want in this world.
Yes, you can.
And increasingly, you can do even more, because nowadays you can get all kinds of education in different formats. You don't have to be in a classroom anymore. You can do it online, you can do it on the street. There are all kinds of ways to learn and to experience, and that is essentially what I think is important for young people.
So you touched on it a little bit, but what do you think has been your biggest impediment over the years? Like, what has been the thing that you feel like this is it keeps coming up, or it was just this one time when it was like a big challenge? Like, what is the biggest fight that you've had about our day, or to keep our day, or if you have any, what is like the biggest adversity you faced with over this 30 years?
Yeah, I do face challenges that I day, and I think, the person who is closest to you is the person who also is the most challenging. Because you wake up every morning with that person, you go to work every day with that person. It really is my parents. Right now I'm talking to parents and trying to talk them into getting vaccination, and oh no, you're the worst thing ever. You're trying to persuade me to do what the white man wants me to do. And it's like, it is just so, and how do you come at that? How do you talk about that? And I try in different ways. Some ways I do well, some ways I don't. Some ways yes, we're going to do it. And I think just working with our young people, letting them know they can live. And yes, we have COVID, but you can live beyond that if you take their vaccination or you do certain things in order to do well. My other big challenge is not only working with our parents and our young people and their minds. The next big challenge is, I hate to say this, it make me corny, but it's money. To build and get the dollars that really allow our young people to do well is a struggle. I struggle. We just processed payroll today. We're struggling to
I want more money, man.
You know what I mean? We are struggling to buy this, and we shouldn't be. There's so much money all over the place, but again, it's tied up with a lot of politics and history and culture, that our folks are black and we don't deserve it. And how do you do that? I sit with foundations, and they say to me, well, do you have white kids that you serve? Because we ain't giving you no money if you don't have white kids. What am I supposed to say? I only have black kids, then they gonna give me no money. These are educated white folk talking like this.
Wow.
Do you have white kids? And as Stephen, who works with me, we get 1, 2, 4, 5 just to say yes.
It's crazy because even the kids, and before I go into that, I'm gonna ask the other question that I had. You are the only, or ADE is the only black ran organization like this in the city, right?
Yes.
That like blows my mind, considering, and I've been saying this a lot about a lot of different topics, that this is the minority city.
Yes.
And it's the 5th largest, and it may have fell to 6th, or it may have went up to 4th, but it's the 5th largest media market in the country. So there's money in this city. Like it's a lot of money in this city, and you're talking about a city that is a majority minority, and you are the only black ran organization of this sort in the city, and you're still challenged to get money, to get funding. Like
I think the name of the agency sets people off. It's a self-selection. How many people say, yes, I want to go to Institute for the Development of African American Youth?
Right.
You know what I mean? How many people, only black kids say that? White parents equally say, my child is not black, he's white. But yet I want him to come to your program. Or why do you want him in my program? Because you guys only talk about black stuff. I say we talk about human stuff.
Right.
It's a challenge. It's complicated every day. We try to figure out how to do it and how to do it best and how to meet the needs of each of our young persons. But at core is about that young person.
Right.
Are you planning on expanding in any way?
Well, we have gone up and down. Years ago when we tell people John Street, when he was the mayor, just loved us, to come take pictures with us, and anything we applied for, we got. I mean, don't want to say this in public, but, there was a proposal out of the city, we applied, we got it. We were up to $10 million. We had 5 buildings all over the city. Another administration came along, didn't like John Street, and cut everything. And as he was cutting, he cut us too. We were part of the John Street. Right. And now we're beginning to build again. I'm now looking at getting a second property in West Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia, and looking to build elsewhere. And it looks hopeful. But why do our young people, and the both mayors who one loved us and one didn't love the mayor, went down the other direction? I mean, didn't he know? But it's complicated.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he had answers we weren't aware of. So, yes, so we do want to build. We think we need many more schools. And why are schools in so bad shape?
In so much trouble.
So much trouble. Why our neighborhoods? It's because we don't have the resources, we don't have the opportunities, and we don't have the structure of men And mothers are critically important. We got to understand that. If we want, a lot of times for our mothers, we won't even be here because our men are off doing something that's often not always positive.
So when you say the parents are like the biggest and one of your biggest impediments since you've been doing this, I understand that, because every parent, they sometimes it's like you going on emotion about your child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might need to get a little bit more information before you can make a really good decision. But
Right.
the whole thing is like, I'm going to go with my emotion because I don't have that information. And
Right.
nobody can really challenge you because this is your
That's
child.
your child.
But it's
Yeah.
like,
Nobody
yo,
can tell
if
you
you
about
could
your
just get a
child.
little bit more informed about this, you can make a better decision about your child. So,
Yeah.
and that's, it's, like you said, it's like, how do you... Like, how do you
Yeah.
deal with that?
How
Like,
do you-
repeatedly, it's like, how do you try to get the parent to have just a little bit more information in this place? Like, listen, if you just read this, take a little bit of time to, well, what are you saying? I'm stupid? You know what I mean? I don't know how to
Exactly,
parent.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a hard thing. Like, you're trying to have a conversation
Right.
with a mom or a dad, and you could tell, like, if he only knew. He cares about his child. She
Right.
cares about her child.
Right.
Right.
But if she only knew
Right.
this, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Right.
We would both be working as a
Right.
team with that child.
And
Correct.
I think a way to combat issues like that is to have a more holistic approach to handling and dealing with our youth. You know, while there's programs there for the children, programs need to be available for the parents as well.
Correct.
Resources need to be available for the parents as well, because there's that struggle between parents going out and having to be responsible for going to work, 2 and 3 jobs, some of them,
Yep.
and providing for the kids, and they want their children, they want to just be able to go to work in peace, take care of the home, and they want their kids to be okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times I've been through it, when you have a child that's struggling and you gotta leave work, you gotta do this to go do this with the kid, and you can't go here, you gotta go to this. Is when it's pulling you out of work like that, it affects your job.
Yes.
And a lot of parents fear not having that job, and sometimes that can be complicated, and it causes them to give pushback because they're struggling between doing what I need to do for my kids mentally and doing what I need to do for my kids financially. And it's because the society has raised us to, say we got to get out here and you got to work. You got to get out here and work. You know what I mean? So it's one of the ways that I think we can combat that, parents being difficult when we're trying to help the youth, is to have some resources for parents. One of the things that parents don't do enough of, especially when they out there working, is self-care. Little workshops and stuff like that, some self-care. Parent, mom, come in and get some self-care. Have somebody, give pedicures and manicures and, little things like that to kind of draw the parents in. And those are just ideas. But, if you get a community, people in the community to participate in stuff like that, we got a lot of cosmetologists in the city of Philadelphia.
Right.
It's a lot of ways. Is
Right.
it anything that you've ever had for parents?
We do
Or
have
like, is it a way that you have them come in? Like, do you have something already set up?
we do have a structure for parents where they come in once a month. We haven't had it for the last year because of COVID.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that's another issue.
And that has really created even more
I can
unseen problems. For the next 10 years, we're going to be dealing with this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
psychologically.
Oh, absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yes.
But we do have things for parents, and now we're thinking even more of the kinds of things. Miss, what's your name again?
Nicole.
Nicole.
Yes.
What Nicole is saying, that we need not only work with the young person, but the young person and the family, and it very much blends in with the motto of the agency, which is youth and families first.
Yes.
We can't help a young person if we don't have the family. If you don't have gas on, if you don't have food to put on the plate, there's nothing we can say to that mother about that child,
Right.
or even talk sensible to the child. And we're not talking a whole lot of money,
Right. Right.
to be honest with you.
It is.
Have you ever? Because it's like, once I came and I seen how everything was going down, and I was like, yo, this is a great opportunity. And then I had to realize this me coming in is post COVID. So because we are dealing with children, and there's a little bit more stringent how they want to go about things with COVID and so forth when you're dealing with kids. Just dealing with people in particular, but definitely dealing with children. So I was like, man, you could do this, you could do that, and he could do. And then more and more that I'll be asking questions, it'd be like, no, before COVID we were doing that.
Right.
Before COVID we were doing that.
Right.
Before COVID, like COVID, like stripped a lot of things down. So what are you looking forward to, like, bringing back, or is things for sure just slowly coming back? Is there anything that's not coming back? Anything that you were doing that you know was working for our babies, and it's like, damn, because of COVID we can't do that no more. We can't bring that back.
Actually, I've been thinking about that. Initially, I was just as, dejected as everyone when COVID was in its height last summer. It's like, oh my God, we're never going to get through this. But then slowly I started thinking, well, you can't be negative. What's positive? So it allows you to rethink the future and reimagine what it is you want to do. Like when I went blind, yes, if I were 14, I would be 15 and 16 and do what 16-year-olds would do, continue, look for girlfriends and that kind of stuff. Now I had to stop and think, what do I want to do? And have my mother say to me, you can do anything you want to do now. You can reset your compass and think. It's the same thing with COVID. I tell the young people, they can do whatever they want to do. We just had a reset. Now, what do you want to do? Let's start off again. Let's figure out where to go with this. And I think this is an opportunity for us all to rethink what it is we have sort of just naturally just think is the operation. It really isn't. It's too dysfunctional. Now we need our young people and our families to rethink for them.
Right.
And help them. But we need infinitely more support. I'm being very honest with you. We don't support our families enough. The neighborhoods are all atomical. They're bits and pieces. No one cares of no one. You might know your neighbor after 40 years, but you don't walk into a neighborhood and start getting to know people or talking. They think you're crazy.
Right.
And you're supposed to be sharing love. I heard you earlier when you said we have to learn to love again. It sounds corny. I'm not talking about romantic love, but caring love.
But it's necessary.
It is necessary, and we don't do it as a people. And then you wonder why it is so choppy and so many things are not here for us.
Right.
I think it's one of those things where I say this a lot, and I've experienced it a lot. Like, we don't know how to have relationships anymore. Like, actually, I think that's another thing of a result of racism. Like, it was stripped away from us how to have relationships.
Yes.
I was talking about, American culture being about rugged individualism.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that produces a selfishness about people that keeps you from having good relationships, because everybody's coming into the relationship from the standpoint of, y'all supposed to coalesce around me for my goals, my agendas, my feelings. What I feel is the most important thing in the room. And that's not traditionally us. Right. That's not, when people be talking about narcissists and all that, that's what that breeds. And that's not traditionally us as Africans. Our thing is communal.
Right.
It's been for centuries. For millennia, like I said, we have been moving in a certain way, and then it comes to an abrupt stop in America 400 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now we're trying to operate from somebody else's ethos, from European ethos. We don't move as the Mavericks and all of that. We're about take what you need, leave the rest. Why are you leaving the rest? Because you're leaving the rest for your people, and that reality bred community, which the basis of every community is relationships, person-to-person relationships, and then those person-to-person relationships turn into families, and then those families turn into communities. And the fact that we don't know how to have those person-to-person relationships, that's the reason why I say we got to learn how to love again, because we don't know how. The rites of passage is going to tell you what your role is when you turn 13, 14 years old. We don't have that, where somebody's explaining to you, like, literally social norms, how you supposed to operate. And a part of those social norms was learning about relationships. How do you treat your neighbor? How do you treat your brother? How do you treat your mom? How do you treat your friends? What is it to be a good friend? To be a good neighbor? To be a good citizen? What is that really? We're not taught that.
Right.
So now we at a place where we got to learn how to love again. We don't know how to have relationships.
Yes.
And I think that's like one of the biggest issues that we deal with when we have certain resources, or we have people like you, who is a resource. You create this thing, and had we understood what communalism was, and that's our thing, we would have coalesced behind our day in a different way.
Right.
And that's what we fighting. That's why I feel like being there, that's what we fighting for every day. I'm trying to convince people, even though I just came into the situation, but I believe in it. So I'm trying to convince people that, yo, funding is good. We need funding.
Right.
But you have a business over here, we getting kids from your community. You have a business over here, we're getting children from your community.
Yes.
And they look like us, and we need to coalesce behind this idea called our day.
Right.
Or this idea called whatever it is,
Right.
the fathership program. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Right.
Whatever these organizations are that's serving our folks, we can coalesce. But we got to understand relationships again.
Yes.
You gotta understand.
You know what I mean?
No, you're
Yes.
right. You're right.
That's absolutely right. And it starts with the individual.
Mhm.
Because we've been taught self-hate.
Yes.
And we are hating ourselves, which is blocking us from loving ourselves
Yep.
and
Loving
resulting
each other.
in loving each other.
Nicole, you're right. It is our self-hate. Why do you think we kill each other? Why do you think we hurt each other? We rob each other because we don't understand the trauma and what happens. What happens to me too? Even though I'm the one doing the shooting, I'm the one doing the, the crime. But it hurts me too. But we don't see that. We see that as masculine. That we are doing something against you.
Yeah, it's the victim and the perpetrator.
Yes.
They're all involved in trauma in some kind
That's
of
right.
way that
That's
they're
right.
dealing with,
That's
and
right.
they're not able to express themselves.
That's right.
And
That's right.
once we start, the bigger we get with organizations like yours and others like the Fathership Foundation and stuff like that, like the bigger we get with
Right.
organizations like that, that's showing the love and building the relationships, it's allowing these young folks to love themselves
That's
for
right.
who they are. It's okay to be different. You don't have to hang on the street. You can, if you into, making video games, be into making video
That's
games,
right.
and we're gonna love you for making
Right.
video games.
Right.
Individualism is okay, and we respect it, and then we love ourselves. We can love other people, and we have to respect other people's individuality.
Yes.
They don't have to form they don't have to be a part of what you think is the norm. And once the bigger we get with that, the more people we reach with that, the problems are going to start solving themselves.
Yes. Yes. No, I agree with you. We can sit here and talk about it, but now we have to figure out a plan to go out and
Exactly.
do it. You
Now,
see?
Exactly.
with that, with talking about plans, one of the another thing that I want to ask you is, how do you feel about like collaborations? Like, have you done a lot of collaborations with programs over the years?
All
Is it
over.
like a hit and miss? Is it something you stay away from? Like,
No.
how do you deal with other organizations?
All over the place, we do collaborations. The only way things are going to get done is if we join forces.
Yes.
Like you were saying
Yes.
earlier, we were taught to hate ourselves. We were taught not to be together. Because
Yes.
if we
Right.
gather together and we get smarter, we start thinking,
Boy,
it's going to bring down the
It's going to
system.
be a problem.
Everybody is
It's going to be
so
a
what I'm
problem.
saying is the white man actually is very, very, very clever. I don't hate him at this point. I understand the history
Right.
and how it got here. But now we need enough of us to undo it.
Exactly.
You see. But if we got together and we begin to think, why do you think we got together in church and sang and did? Because that wasn't thinking. That was just so they let us do it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start thinking and you want to do something, you want to rally or something, come on.
Soon
Yeah.
as you-
Against us.
Soon as you're not ready to go at somebody, because
Exactly.
you notice like we live in a culture of controversy,
Yes.
Yeah.
where controversy is the thing that sells.
It
like
sells.
Right.
Yep.
that competition, but you're taking it to a level. It's like competition in
Right.
your personal life, competition in your business life.
Everything.
Everything is a confrontation. Sports is like a confrontation beyond the actual game. Now it's the personal strife between a coach and a player, or two
Yep.
opposing players.
Yes.
It's always controversy is what's selling everything.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yes,
But
it
it's
is.
keeping us separated.
Right.
Because now I feel like everybody's suffering from paranoia. It's always somebody out there. Oh, the haters is going to get you. They gonna talk crazy. Now we all like, I can't deal with this person because if he know a little bit about me, he gonna run and tell somebody else, or he gonna be clocking my money and he don't want to see me get more money than him. It's like everybody, they're telling you
every day.
it's a paranoia of confrontation,
Listen,
of controversy.
every day. One of the guys you work with, I don't know if you know his name, Ratzol. I shouldn't say it on the air. He's trying to keep the privacy. You know him. He just got shot twice. He almost died. He just had surgery Friday, had surgery Sunday, and is still in ICU days later. And he's in your class.
I know exactly. Like I take a lot of pride in learning their names.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I constantly, because I'm big on respect in that way. One, knowing somebody's name, but making sure you say people's name correct.
Hey, you right on time with that one.
Right, that is a big thing to me. So with
Yes.
those young brothers, I've been learning, and I know who Rasul is, because the thing about him is from the time that I started, it looked like he grew some or something.
Yes.
Like he got a little taller, you know what I mean? And I don't know why I always think that maybe he was already that height, but it's
no, they grow because they're coming in at 14. They're
Right.
coming in at 15.
Right.
They're growing.
But I know
with
exactly
us.
who you're talking
Yes.
about.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
But just about every week we have someone shot or murdered. I'm telling you, murdered, killed. We're
And
going to funerals every other week.
Wow.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's another reason why, again, I looked at it like the dream job.
Right.
Because I get in the middle of this and actually deal with my young brothers and give them as much of me as I can without having to be a part of the system in that punitive way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I don't have to carry on what I know is not working.
Right.
So I could have worked at a lot of different places with our young people, but I felt like I would have been a part of the system. And even though I'm going to be telling you things that's contrary, my actions have to follow what my job description is.
Exactly.
So I'm not
Ultimately.
able, right?
Ultimately.
Exactly. So I'm not able to help you in the way that because I want to make my money.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
then again, I'm not saying this just because you sitting here. I've told other people from day one. My sister know. I talk about it. I talk about it now
All the
every
time.
show.
Uh-huh.
My young folks.
Yes.
I did this today. This is the conversation we had because I'm really honored that I'm able to step into this spot and be able to give of myself to like change it. So
Right.
it's crazy to have to deal with that trauma, and I don't have a problem with dealing with it and going into it and hoping I can help in some way. But for you to say that, like, yo, every week, every month, somebody's getting hurt, somebody's getting rearrested. Unfortunately, some of these young babies pass away, and it's like I'm prepared for it. I thought about this when I first started working. Like, damn, I asked myself, you got enough going on in your life. Are you prepared to get close to these babies and then something happens?
Yeah.
And we got to put ourselves through a certain amount of trauma to help.
And that's that.
You know what I'm saying? It is what it
vicarious
is.
trauma.
Like, yeah, exactly.
And when you working with them, and then not only that, you're working with them and they're experiencing things that you or a close family member or a friend personally have experienced, and just being there and going through that with them and experiencing that vicarious trauma is really going to put you in a position where you're going to need help, you're going to need support, and you're going to have to take care of yourself.
Right.
So that's why being right there on the ground at the bottom like that and working with them on their way up is very, very important, because they will respect you. Because when you're talking and you're with them at that level, coming from where you come from and being relative, you know what I mean? But you have to, it is so important. I can't stress it enough. We all, everybody who is out here with their feet on the ground, doing the things that we need to do to uplift our communities, we have to take care of ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
When
Can add one more thing there. When we look at the traumas and difficulties in our neighborhood, if you go to court, we go to court every day.
Right.
At the Youth Study Center, which is now called PJJC, got renamed, got rebuilt, and the family court downtown. 99% of the folks in these courtrooms are African Americans.
Wow.
The lawyers, the public defenders, the judges, there's only one black judge in the juvenile division. And they're all European Americans. Now, we don't have to go any further to look. Even go to 13th Street and Philbert.
Right.
These courtrooms are filled. Is that all that our people can do? No.
No.
This is what they've put in front of us. And when you put young people and you only give them vanilla and chocolate, well, they're going to choose something or put a combination of chocolate and vanilla together. And that's where the crime comes in. So that's why I so much believe in restorative justice. It's another way of approaching and not just thinking everything is supervision on a GPS and
Punishment.
prison
it's not.
Punishment.
It's not,
That-
because all that's going
Right.
to do is perpetuate the school to prison pipeline.
Exactly.
That's all it's going to do.
Exactly.
Now, how do you doing this for 30 years, and you know it has, like, one of the things I like to tell the young folks is like, yo, a lot of what y'all dealing with is not new.
No.
It's
No.
a rerun. I lived the same
No.
thing. I was a young
Absolutely.
cat in the middle of the crack epidemic,
That's
and
right.
it was the same. It was wild, and people, they got short memories because that's another way that they try to deal with
Right.
trauma. Like, oh,
Right.
we have something 4 or 5 years, or you get so used to it, you don't even recognize that it's
Don't.
still as bad as it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the question with that is, over 30 years, over 3 decades, how have you maintained your strength to keep doing it? Knowing that you're
Absolutely.
meeting these babies, meeting parents, and things are happening to them, and it's
Over
like,
and over again.
yo, what's one of the ways or some of the ways that you've been able to continue to fight, continue to
Yes.
be there for our community, to provide this resource?
I think it's a fundamental change that happened to me when I became blind. It was so earth-shattering. It's like, oh my God, my whole world changed. I actually thought it was over, and very slowly came back to it with the voice of my mother. I have to tell you, my mother was really critically important. If it were not my mother, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, I just thought it was done. That's it. It was just the casket next. And you do that every day. After a while, you believe the casket is next.
Right.
And every day she kept saying, you can do what you want to do. Be supportive. Be clear. You can do it. Don't let the world hold you back. Every day she'll tell me, don't let the world. And eventually I started believing, oh, mother, get on my face. All right. I believe it. I started believing it. And eventually when we came here and I saw, you can go to America and you can go to school and you can do this and you can do that and you can do. I'm doing it. I don't care. And then I came just at the time when the disability rights, 504 legislation. That
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? All the places got to be barrier free, and the place you got to, the employers got to entertain what it is, disabled people do. I mean, I came right at the right time
Right.
where America was making changes for me as a disabled person, but I also had to deal with a black person. I got on the plane in New York and saw blackness right then. All the white folks were on one side, black folks on one side. My mother said, come on, we have to go over here. I said, why? Oh, this is where the black folks are. I mean, we got it the first day we got off the plane in America. That's how deep it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I tell people, we gotta have strong support. We gotta get brothers and sisters to really connect with us. And when we fall, they hold us up. They hold us up.
Right.
And there are real opportunities in that. Go we get ahead. One last thing I'll say, and I feel strongly about this. And I don't want to be, paranoid in any way or someone thinks I'm believing in propaganda, conspiracy theory. But drugs and guns and all this didn't just show up in our neighborhood.
No.
Whoever is flooding it, there is a pipeline. There's real clarity as to where it's coming from. We don't see it
Right.
because who is putting it in is very clever and they know how to duke it. But at the same time, instead of putting in these guns and drugs and everything else, they could be putting in opportunities. But
Exactly.
opportunity is going to kill them because they're the ones who won these lottery tickets. The millions and billions of dollars. And if they put it in our neighborhood, then they're going to get less. So there's a
Yes.
real purpose why our neighborhoods are in such degradation.
So I'll give you one of the reasons that I always say for that. And I've taught this to the class as well. And I try to keep reiterating it. And one of those things is capitalism. And capitalism dictates that there has to be a baked-in underclass. So you have to create things around people
Right.
so that they maintain being servants, being workers, mindless consumers, never wanting to be or compete with you
Right.
for that seat at the table to make and that's what's and black folk are a part of that. They've been chosen since day one.
Yes.
At one time we were
Right.
working for free.
Right.
So you created through capitalism a built-in underclass.
Right.
And that's what we've been. That's what we've been trying to find, work
Yeah,
our way
right,
out of,
yeah.
educate ourselves out of, fight our way out of, because a lot of people
Right.
like to believe that our people haven't been fighting. And something that I learned is all fights aren't physical fights.
No.
Right.
And the cleverness of the people, the Europeans who are in control, that oligarchy that maintains their power and control in America, the cleverness of it is, I know your potential.
Yes.
So I'm going to do everything that I can do to
That's
keep
right.
you from realizing your potential.
Exactly.
And then
that's why our neighborhoods are the way they are. Someone is deliberately doing this, and we got to work to undo that.
That's
Right.
it.
It's funny because the thing about that too, and the cleverness is, the same cat that's creating an environment of confusion will create organizations and stuff to kind of like say, we're trying to help, we're
Right.
trying to, you
Of
know what I
course,
mean?
of
And it's
course,
like,
of course.
we, because of self-hate, one of those things, we'll see like that one benevolent white person and be like, yo, this, all that you're telling me is not true. They can't be like this. This
Right.
lady over here is doing X. And
Right.
I was like, that's how the system is set up. She
Yes.
may genuinely
Yes.
be a good person
Yes.
with a great organization, but it's put out there to make you believe that she represents the whole of
That's
what's
right.
going on.
That's
right.
You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying?
That's right.
And now
That's
you
right.
fighting against your own people who trying to tell you, no, man, it's cats behind her who don't care. She may
Exactly.
really care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a bunch of cats that's helping fund her and push her out there that's making you believe that, no, we all like this. It's just
Right.
like Bill Gates
it's
changing
not.
who he is.
It's like
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Media-wise, for like
Yeah.
he like now is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but you did
Absolutely,
all, but you did all these nefarious things
Exactly.
to become Bill Gates.
Exactly.
And then once you got there, you create all of the, and you're still
Exactly.
doing some funny stuff. People
That's
can go
right.
look it up. I'm
That's
not
right.
making none of this
That's
up.
right.
You
Yeah.
can see what he
Yeah.
got
No,
going
they're
on.
doing it.
But
They're doing it.
that's the cleverness.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like-
And part of that is, not talking about the black women that are dying at the hands of the police.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay? And which brings us into that part of the show where I talk about and say the name of a woman who has died at the hands of the police. And we got onto this conversation, we got onto this topic from a conversation of intersectionality, where African American women are discriminated against they're at this intersection where they're discriminated against because of the color of their skin.
Yep.
And they're discriminated against because we're women. And it's not just at the hand, just not dying at the hands of the police. It's in healthcare.
Yep.
It's in the workplace.
Yep.
Hey,
You know what I mean?
inequities, yep.
So, but one of the things that
But it's
came
quiet,
out of that,
but it's quiet.
quiet.
That's the
Exactly.
problem.
Exactly.
It's
So we're
quiet.
going to talk about it,
Right.
and we're going to say the name. And today, the young lady that I want to talk about is a woman who, unfortunately, we're back at another issue of mental health. She was the mother of a son who was, I believe they were serving a warrant. Hold on, let me get my facts straight, because my head is inundated with a lot of information.
Yes.
Right.
So, Deborah Danner, that's her name, Deborah Danner. She was shot and killed in her bedroom in her apartment in Bronx, New York. They were responding to a call saying, I had another one at first. This is separate. They were responding to a call saying that she had schizophrenia and had been in her hallway screaming. So the police described the shooting as self-defense after she swung a bat at the officers, despite the
Right.
fact that they responded to a call saying that she was screaming in the hallway and she had schizophrenia. One of the things about this that had, on the contrary to some of the other ladies that I have discussed, is that this officer, Hugh Barry, was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter, and criminally negligent homicide. So, this is another instance of a black woman suffering from mental health and the police not responding to that call.
Yeah.
This woman was clearly in crisis, and instead of getting her the help that she needed, they killed her.
Right.
They shot her because she swung a bat.
Now-
Swinging a bat is not a reason to
It's-
die.
Exactly.
It's
Now-
not a reason to die. This is a man. This is a woman who's suffering from
Right.
schizophrenia.
Right.
And I'm glad the world is kind of revolving and changing, and people are being more informed about trauma
Right.
and
Mental illness.
first aid response, mental health first aid and things like that are being trained. People are being trained. Agencies, police are being trained differently. But all the training in the world goes out the door if you are somebody who does not value the life of the person that you're responding to.
Exactly.
That's crazy. And I think we harp on this a lot, and we're going to keep harping on it. That's one of the things. Repetition makes you learn. It helps you learn.
Yes, it
Right,
does.
So
right,
I have to
right.
keep saying it to y'all that this institution of racism racism in all its institutions, whether we talk about hospitals, schools, precincts, radio stations, all of these institutions can promote the idea of racism that gives, again, like we already touched on earlier, it makes black folk hate themselves, not believe that they're worthy. So they act in a way with each
Right,
other,
right.
like, your black ass don't mean nothing because my black ass don't mean nothing. And
Exactly.
it's not,
That's
because the
right,
person that
that's
cares
right,
about their
exactly.
life is real, they're very unlikely. It's very unlikely that they're going to be out there trying to hurt other people.
Right.
Because they, like you said about the self-love.
Right.
And then the other side of it is it teaches Europeans that their life is worth everything.
Yes.
And black lives aren't worth anything.
Exactly.
So now that's where we talk about intersectionality and how black women and women of color are at this crossroads of we're women and we're people of color, and then you have this guy who steps in who also live in a very sexist society, a very
Absolutely.
patriarchal society. So
Yes.
now you seeing a woman and a person of color, and neither one of them is worth anything.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's even
Right.
more, you're even more apt to attack her any way that you see fit, and
Right.
that's how we end up where we end up. So we have to say her name. We have to say her name. And before you had something else, because I wanted to ask
No,
him.
go ahead.
The only reason why I asked you that, because I wanted to ask him when he said about being disabled and being black, and it made me feel that's kind of similar. That's a
Absolutely.
similar
It is. That is.
intersectionality.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly.
It
You know what I'm
is a point of
saying?
intersectionality. Yes,
So
it is.
how does things like this inform you? Like how do they touch you? Like have you had times when you had to speak on that? Like listen, y'all not gonna treat me a certain type of way, or I'm not gonna be presented a certain type of way because I'm black and I'm disabled.
But
like,
it's funny because when you're sitting with other blind folks or disabled folks and you're black and we're all disabled, now the black becomes more important because all of a sudden, you're black and you can't do this or you're not smart enough. So it comes through even when we get together with my other friends who are white because now we're all common. We're all human beings, so whites are more important than blacks. We're all disabled, so the white disabled are more important than the black disabled. It gets crazy.
Wow,
It is so deeply embedded in everything we do, the law, our behaviors, our interaction.
Yes.
Sometimes it makes me almost like, when are we going to get here? But we have to acknowledge we have made progress.
Yes.
We have made
Yes.
progress. And it's been difficult, but we have made progress. Do we have more progress?
Yes.
Of course
Of
we do.
course.
because the knife is still in my back. Like you pulled it out a little bit, but it's still
But it's still there. But
It's
it's
still
still there.
there.
But this is progress. Us
still
being
there.
able to sit here
Right.
right
And
now
talk about it. This is
in
progress.
a
That's-
black-owned radio station.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Talking about black-owned organizations.
Right.
We
Brand
are making
directed.
progress.
Yes. Yes,
So
we are making
this
progress.
is we
need
got
to
a ways to
acknowledge
go,
that.
but
Yes.
we on the right track.
That's right.
Do you
That's right.
do? And I'm going to ask Raw Cannon this. Nah, I'm just messing. with you.
Go
But
ahead.
I notice when you do this, right? I know why it is, but I'll kind of one because I don't think people can see it.
Right.
Like I feel the emotion when you read these joints every week. Like seriously, like y'all might think we don't got to pipe nothing up on here because we keep
No.
it authentic.
100.
So this is not a pipe up.
Right.
But I see it when she be explaining these. Every time she explains, I see. I have my own emotions
Right.
because of the way I feel about black folk and how I feel about black women in particular.
Right.
But I see it when she starts talking. I
Right.
can feel it. Like
Right.
I could feel it. And what is that? Like, what is that for you? I know what it is, but I want you to kind of give them an understanding. Like,
What it is for me is, one, I am a black woman. That's number one. And I have come up in these systems where I've been treated differently. I've been in hospitals having babies where I've been treated differently.
Yeah.
I've been at employers working for men, Caucasian white men,
Right.
and been treated differently. I've seen my children
Yeah.
coming up in the system and they're treated differently in the mental health system, in the education system. And whenever I'm talking about this, I've had run-ins with the police.
right.
You know, I've been pulled over. I've been, gripped up and manhandled in my time
Right.
on this earth. So when I'm and then a lot of times, before the show, I'm usually in my car around 4:30 every day, just deciding on like who I really want to talk about today.
Right.
And I go through at least 4 or 5 different stories, so I already come in here with emotions.
Right.
From this, going through the list and figuring out who I'm going to talk about today. So, and I'm a lover. I'm an Aquarius.
Yes.
I feel.
Join the crowd. I'm Aquarius.
Listen, I feel.
You Aquarius too?
See,
Hold on.
Are you
Aquarius?
A
Aquarius?
Yes,
lot
I
of
am. My
love up in
birthday.
here today. It's
Oh,
a
really?
lot of love
Yes.
up here today.
Hold on. Her birthday
I'm
is
February 11th.
My birthday is February 1st.
And I'm February 13th.
Yo, see,
my
I keep telling y'all, Aquarius do great things.
ain't
We
lying.
do
Listen.
great things. Like,
Yes,
we
we
out
do.
here for y'all.
Yes,
We
we
out here
do.
for y'all.
That is
Yeah.
interesting. That's
Yes.
interesting.
Yo, I didn't know that neither. I really didn't know that.
Listen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listen, and that's why it's so important for us as Aquarius to
Right.
partake in self-care.
Right.
Because when we out here helping these people, we feeling it.
Yeah.
We are in tune with
Yeah.
what they're going through.
Right.
So it's important
Wow.
for us. And I struggled a long time with being a social worker
Yeah.
and being in school for my master's in social work. And I'm getting ready to start in my last internship before I graduate.
Right.
And I have like one of the best things that I could have learned over my years of being in a helping position, working in human services
Right.
and social services, is learning to say, no, not today. I'm going to take care of me
Right.
today.
Exactly.
And that was one of the hardest things that I had
Yeah,
to learn. And I had to say it, and I'm proud to say it. No, sir, I'm not coming into work today.
Right.
I am taking a mental health day.
Yes,
And and I
need
pressure
to learn that.
I'm my hardest critic. If an
Right.
assignment is due, and I had all these things come up, and and then I'm a perfectionist. So
Right.
it's like I got to get this assignment done. I got to get it done, and then I got to say to myself, no, my body is shutting down on me.
Yeah.
You know what? I need to go lay down. Sorry, professor, not today.
Now she makes a great point of, again, over 30 years, I know I asked you about adversity. I want 2 things. One, give me, like, really, really, and you touched on it a little bit, but why do you do this? Why do you still do it? And have you had those shutdown moments when you like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. So I need both of those questions. I need to know, why do you do this? Like, what is driving you every day? And like I said, you alluded to it. And then the other question is, have you had those moments where it's like, you know what? I don't think our day gonna be in existence next week. You know what I'm saying? Or
Right.
next month.
That's
Have
the
you?
hard one.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look, like just give me a little bit of both.
That's interesting. I'm certainly thinking as you're talking. This is really deep and profound, I have to tell you. I started IDA because I really saw myself in these young people who were not in my classroom.
Wow.
And I knew I was there, and I knew I needed to help them. It might not be a gun shooting, it might not be, but it's the same things. I was denied opportunities. I was, through an accident, became blind, and all of a sudden I've lost everything. Now how do I regain those things and be a human being? And when I came through, and of course now I'm black.
Well, you that first, right?
So it's funny. It's all of a sudden, so I'm something else now that I need to think on how I'm going to survive this.
Right.
So, and then as I was finishing up my PhD, the question in a lot of the classes, there were like two other friends who were black, and we would study together, and we all was like, man, are we going to get a job? Because they're going to say they prefer hiring the white man before us. And I mean, it was like amazing conversation. We were all figuring out how we going to do this. We're supposed to be the brightest and the best, but we don't feel it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the system is going to put us down. Who's going to hire a black PhD versus a white PhD when we come for a job?
Right.
So it was really difficult. So I said, you know what? I have to help my people with my education with what I can do, because I will get there. And I really know I will get there. The end of the day is psychologically, emotionally, and when I leave this earth, I will have gotten there because I've done the most powerful thing to help someone else.
Yes.
And we have helped them in the structure of the institute, so people can take pride of who they are, and they can also explore and become who they are, to the same way I became who I am.
That's
So I think it is really, really powerful for me. And just this whole structure, it continues. And sometimes what is very difficult, and sometimes I sit back and think about it, I don't want to talk about it, because it's sometimes our own people who hold us back. Like, my goodness, how could you be the president of city council and you're black and your neighborhood is one of the worst in the world?
Right.
Where's your power? You're supposed to be the president. I'm the executive director. I can't do any old thing. I still have to answer to IRS and answer, but I have leverage to do certain things. Someone calls me up and says, I'm having a rough time. I can say, I can help you with that.
Right.
Because I'm the president. Where is all black politicians? Where are black policy makers? Where are black people who can help us make the world better?
Because it's going to have to be that.
It's
Right.
going to have to be.
I don't care how culturally competent you think you are.
Yes.
It's going to
So-
have to be that.
Yes.
Yo, every guest, you got to come back. And
Oh, I
since
would
I got a
love to.
direct line, because I got a lot of
that's
other
right,
questions,
that's
I got
right.
a lot of other things that I want to
But I
talk to
enjoyed
you
the
about.
show. I
really
appreciate
it.
enjoyed
I
it.
love it.
Listen,
Yes, I
man,
Thank you.
it's Philly service
Let's
announcement.
get together.
Our day in the
Let's go.
building. Our day is in the
Tuesday.
building. Takeover Tuesday. Raw Cannon, my right hand sister
Okay.
Nick, Omni Assist, Archie, my boss, give me my money. Nah, man, I'm honored. I'm really honored that you gave me this opportunity, man, and I definitely want to say thank
I'll
you,
be
man.
glad, because you don't
Yes.
get people like us getting together and think about these issues.
Yeah.
This
We are
is a
const-
brainstorm.
There you
Yes,
go.
it is.
This whole
Philly
thing
service
is a
announcement, y'all.
brainstorm.
That's what we
That's
doing
right.
out
That's
here.
right. That's right.
Brainstorm.
That's right.
Putting
That's
it to
right.
action.
That's